Hey guys, and welcome to today's session. February sessions. The first one was a quiz. We took the chapter 5 grammar quiz and we finished it. And the second session, we covered our Act 2 of the Miracle Worker. I'm going to share a screen with you. We're doing the same division. We're dividing the pages into fives. Okay, we're going to do the reading. Act 2 is also lengthy. So we're going to do is that we're going to divide per 5 pages. Okay, so the first 5 pages that we read, we started with page 277. Okay, and we are going to go for 5 pages long. This is going to be from page 277 all the way to 281. Okay, so these are the 5 pages that you guys had to read from last week. Today we conducted a revision on those 5 pages and we answered the study guide together as a review. Okay, so you guys are required to do that. The first thing that we need to understand about Act 2 is that it opens up with Annie sitting at her desk. Remember, Annie is residing or living at the Keller's house. They have given her a room. She's going to be staying with Helen with her in the same room, and she's going to be taking care of Helen. This is her job. Okay, as a governess, as we said previously in Act 1. The Act 2 starts out with Annie sitting at her desk. She's writing a letter using ink and pen, and they don't tell us who she is directing this letter to, but we can understand that maybe she's directing it to Anagnos, being that he is the one that that knows about this job and this opportunity that she's working for the Kellers, and he also knows about her job with Helen and how much of a struggle it could possibly be. In her letter, she says that she's facing a problem. Okay, she admits to facing a conflict in the Keller's household, and this problem, she says, is she does not know how to discipline Annie. Okay, Annie doesn't know how to discipline Helen, considering that everybody around her is spoiling her. Okay, she's never been taught actual discipline, and no one seems to know how to control her or manage her, especially her tantrums and so on. She believes that again, Annie's vision is that Helen needs to learn how to be obedient, or the idea of obedience. And we said obedience is basically following rules. Okay, she does not get what she wants. Okay, so here the conflict that Annie's facing is basically how to discipline Helen without breaking her spirit. Okay, without making her feel weak. Okay, so this is the idea of Annie. This is what Annie wants to do. Okay, so here we see that she wants to obtain this obedience from her, and she's going to stick to that. This is Annie's perspective. While Annie's writing, we see Helen is making a mess. She's creating a mess. She's, emptying all the contents of a drawer onto the floor, creating a mess, so that she could use the drawer as a cradle for her doll. Okay. She also spills the inkwell or the bottle of ink. Again, that's on the desk. She spills it. Okay, and when she spills it, again, we see that Annie does not get upset. She doesn't get frustrated. All right. The only thing that she does is that she seeks it as a learning opportunity for her. Okay. Annie jumps on it, uh, and she jumps on it, and to do what? To teach Helen that this object or this ink is cold ink. Okay. So she takes or grabs Helen's hand, she places it into the ink, and she starts to spell into the palm of her hand the letters I N K. All right, so here she says, here we see that she jumps on the opportunity of teaching her what ink is. Okay. The next thing that Helen does is that she gets very aggravated, and when she does, we see that she gets physically violent with her objects. Okay, she also beats. We've seen her get also physically aggressive with Annie herself. Here we see her that she starts to get the doll and she starts to beat the doll. Okay, or smashing the doll or dashing it on the floor. Here Annie again seeks it as a learning opportunity. Okay. Uh, um, Again, it's a learning opportunity every time for Annie. So what Annie does, she seeks it as again to teach her. Now she's going to teach her good behavior, how she could be a good girl with her doll, and how she could be a bad girl with her doll. Okay, what does she do? Annie holds the doll, she smashes it onto the floor, and physically hurts the doll by shaking it and so on. And here, what does she do? She teaches Annie, she teaches Helen that this is a bad behavior. This is a bad girl. If you do this to your doll, you're a bad girl. Okay. She also takes Helen's face, hands, so that she could feel her facial expression. She has a grieved expression on her face, upset one, very serious, very angry one. Okay. So again, this is teaching her what it's teaching her, that this is bad behavior. To do this to your doll is bad. Then she teaches her good behavior, which is basically how to be good with her doll. Okay, she holds the doll, she caresses the doll. Caress means to stroke it gently. She holds the doll like a baby. She kisses where the doll is hurt. Okay, and she tells her that this is good girl behavior. Okay, so when you treat your doll nice and you care for the doll gently, and you kiss the hurt place for the doll, then you're a good girl. This is good girl behavior. And she makes Helen touch her face, and she sees a smile, or she could sense a smile on Annie's face. So here, this is how Helen teaches her good girl behavior and bad girl behavior. Okay, then we move on to the next thing. Kate, mom, shows up at the door, and what does she say? Okay, she tells her. She hears. So she basically hears Annie doing what? Annie's speaking to Helen. To Kate, this is insane. Why are you making conversation with a deaf child? Okay. Again, Kate here is spectacle, and here she has her concerns that whatever Kate is doing is successful. Again, because of the fact that why are you making conversation with a deaf person that's unable to hear you? Kate justifies this behavior by telling her the same way that you teach Mildred. Mildred is a child. You make talk to her all the time. You speak to her all the time. And even though Mildred is a baby and does not and will not understand what you're saying to her, but you do speak to her still because she's a normal child. So Annie believes that Helen is a smart individual. She's a normal human being that should not be treated as someone who's impaired, and that's why she's speaking to her the same way that Kate speaks to Mildred. Okay. We also see that Annie gives Helen a sewing card and a needle to play with, and she teaches her how to do it, and she actually successfully does it. While playing with the sewing card, she accidentally strokes herself, or pricks herself with the needle, and becomes annoyed and bothered. When it's time for Kate also mentions that it's time for her to sleep, and that basically that it's time for Helen to go to bed. Here we see Annie is going to have a conflict with Helen as she tries to take away the sewing card from her, and what does she do? What does she do? Again, she beats her. Okay, we see that Helen does not want to go to sleep, so she takes the needle and she stabs Annie with the needle in her hands. So again, this is not good behavior. Again, Annie is shocked. She's jabbed with a needle. She's by handing Annie handing Helen a piece of candy or a piece of sweets. Okay. Uh, Hear that that this is actually a way of a reward. You're rewarding her for stabbing me with a needle. This is Kate's mentality. Why are you giving her why are you giving her for this behavior? She just hurt me. You're rewarding her for negative behavior. This is Annie's perspective. Annie is bothered. She's she doesn't understand why why Kate is doing this. Okay, why is she appraising and giving candy to Helen when she just did something bad? And Kate says a very famous line: "We catch our flies with honey." That basically means that in order to calm or soothe her down, we give her basically candy and sweets so that she's not furious or angry or upset. And again, this is what Annie is against. Okay. The following part, we see that they're gathered around the breakfast table. They're having breakfast, and again, Helen is doing something strange. Okay, something unacceptable by the family or the household. All right, and what is it? Number one, number one. They're gathered by the gathering. Here is one of the big conflicts that was happening during the time between the South and the North over the idea of slavery and the abolishment of slavery. And James and Keller are discussing the loss of the South because remember, this is post the Civil War, so after. Okay, and here they're having a discussion about the South and who won in the Battle of Vicksburg, where Mississippi was attacked. They're talking about just overall the events of the Civil War. But here we see that what is Helen doing during that time while the adults are speaking? She is moving from plate to plate with her hands, grabbing the food that's in other people's plates and eating it or playing with it. She's doing this very, playfully. All the adults are not commenting. No one is saying there. No one is telling her to stop. No one is correcting this behavior. Basically, um, they're just treating it like it's normal. All right. And again, we can tell that the adults are accustomed to this behavior. They're used to it and they accept it. Okay. Why they tolerate Helen to do these things? Because again, they just want her to get, to do what she wants. Allow her to do this. Okay. He's telling her, allow her to touch your plate this time. Idea. Annie does not want to step down. She wants to put her foot, actually place her foot down and make Helen follow the rules. Okay, Mr. Keller even offers Vinny to get a new plate for Annie to eat from, and this is not the case. Annie wants to make a point of not spoiling Helen and to basically discipline her. Okay, teach her what's right and what is wrong behavior wise. We see that Mr. Keller is aggravated with Miss Sullivan, with Annie, because Annie's taking control and he's not used to that. As Keller is a patriarch of the family, he does not like to be controlled by women, and he also does not like to be told what to do. So here we see Annie, considering that she's also a girl from the north and he's a southern male. So we have some conflict between Keller and Annie of acceptance. Again, she's trying to gain control over him, and again, he's holding a grudge against her for being from the north during this sensitive time of the Civil War. Okay. Again, here the page ends, or this reading ends at page 281. So please do the reading from starting page 277 to 281. We finished it in class. We also answered the study guide of 15 questions that you guys have to do and submit through assignments. Okay. Those 15 questions discuss these 5 pages. All right. The final thing, Mr. Keller ends this part by telling Annie that she should have pity for the pupil, for Helen. And pity is equivalent to sympathy and basically to feel sorry for her. And when she feels sorry for her, she's going to accept her behavior. And of course, Annie refuses to do that because Annie essentially, her main point is to treat Helen Keller as a normal child, someone who needs to learn obedience, because again, obedience, she believes, is a gateway through knowledge. Okay, knowledge will not enter. No learning will be happening or accomplished if discipline and obedience is not accomplished first. Okay, so this was today's session. Please stay updated with the reading, page 277 to 281. Answer the following 15 questions and submit them to assignments. Thank you, and see you again tomorrow.